it really ingrained into me the realization that what I'm doing and the skills that I have and how I apply myself, it's more than just for entertainment, and it's more than just, a career, something to make money. It's truly something that is my calling, and that I need to do everything that it takes to fully actualize that and see that through, because if not, then...
What's up, DAW Nation? My name is Wyatt Troy, and I want to welcome you to this week's episode of Behind the DAW. Now, if you're new to the show, this is a podcast where I interview music producers, artists, music industry experts, singers, songwriters, sound designers, everyone else in between on an emotional, philosophical, branding, marketing, and overall music business basis. Also, this is a companion podcast to our YouTube series In the DAW, where we invite music producers to come and dissect their songs in real time, right before your eyes. We've had people like Kashmir, Mostep, Fox Stevenson, Au5, Quicks, Said the Sky, Tyne and Culprit, and a whole slew of other people. So I'd highly encourage you to go check that out over on the DAW Nation YouTube channel, or you can catch those over here on the podcast. You just have to look for the 0.5 episodes. So the last episode was 61.5 with Moss and Manny broke down his song Horizon. It was fantastic, absolutely fantastic. I'd highly encourage you to check that out. So again, you can listen to it here, or you can go watch it on the YouTube channel. But DAW Nation, with all that out of the way, who are we interviewing this week? So if you did catch the Monday episode, you heard me say that today we were going to release the Xylent Behind the DAW episode. Unfortunately, I actually was not able to get the approval version sent over to Xylent's team in time for them to approve it and get it back over here so we could release it today. So that was totally my fault. Should have sent it earlier. That was 100% my fault, and I take the full blame for that. But I thought to myself, man, DAW Nation is expecting an episode today. That's not cool for me to skip on one. So I'm gonna have to find a way. To get an episode out today. And this idea came to me. I'm like, man, wait a second. Au5 and I just spent a weekend with each other doing this huge mastermind, and there was so much knowledge, so much wisdom that we gained from that. I was like, well, hold up. What if I just get him on a call and we record it and we talked about everything that we did with the mastermind and the things and the conclusions and the ideas that we came up with and share it with DAW Nation? I think that'd be fantastic. Most people don't even know what a mastermind is or why it's important. We're going to get into exactly what a mastermind is here, so don't worry about that. We'll describe that for you. I was like, man, maybe this was a sign from heaven that we were supposed to do this. So heck yeah, that's what we did. I called Austin and I was like, hey, we're meeting in an hour. And he was like, high five, buddy, let's do it. And so we recorded an hour-long conversation of us talking about the mastermind, what it is, why it's important, what we got from it, how we were able to take this weekend and bring it back to our career, our personal lives, and all that kind of stuff, and how we feel extra stoked and invigorated to keep pushing forward and meet our fullest potential. So DAW Nation, this is all well and dandy, but what are you going to learn from this episode? Why is this important? How are you going to benefit from what we're going to talk about? So here's some of the concepts that I know that you can plan to walk away with. And by the way, you're going to find a lot more than just these concepts, but here's some that you can 100% plan to walk away with. Number one, what the heck is a mastermind and how you could benefit from it right now. We're also going to talk about how high our potential is as music producers and just human beings in general, how being successful is our responsibility, not just a choice, but it's our responsibility, our obligation, our moral responsibility to the human race. We're also going to talk about how to identify the bottlenecks in your career right now. So if you identify them and knock them out, you can grow even faster. And finally, we're going to talk about why you should stop holding back your music and start putting it out so people can hear it. I'm telling you, DAW Nation, and this could be a very bold statement, I'm going to go out on a limb and say this is probably one of the best episodes of Behind the DAW we've ever had. There is an enormous amount of value in here for music producers, for artists, for music industry experts, for anyone that is in music. This is a really, really powerful podcast. It's going to get some gears turning in your minds, especially towards masterminds and reaching your fullest potential and a whole slew of other stuff. So I'm really excited to get into this episode. So DAW Nation, without further ado, let's go behind the DAW with Au5. Welcome everyone to this week of Behind the DAW. I don't know why it's taken this long, but we have finally gotten the one and the only Au5 back on the show. How the freak are you, dude?
Man, I am doing awesome. Thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely, man. It's been like 2 years since we've done this, dude.
Wow. Was the last one Arise when we covered that?
Yeah, it was when we did Arise. So like we've done literally 4 episodes of In the DAW before doing another Behind the DAW.
Wow.
1 week ago, exactly 1 week ago from right now, like literally right this second, You flew into Salt Lake. I picked you up in my minivan.
Yep.
We packed up a bunch of stuff and we went in the middle of nowhere into Hatch, Utah, which has 134 people living there. And we, in my personal opinion, you may disagree, but in my personal opinion, we had one of the greatest weekends of our entire lives. Do you agree with that statement?
Oh, I would say so.
Okay.
For sure.
Okay. So the question is, why the freak is Wyatt from DAW Nation and Au5 going out in the middle of nowhere to do what? I mean, what were we doing there, Austin?
Initially, we went out there to record a masterclass.
Ooh.
Another sound design masterclass.
Oh.
In addition to kicking it, getting to know each other better. And well, we went into it with the goal to pretty much expand both of our minds.
Yep.
And do a mastermind, which we'll talk about.
So for those who don't know what a mastermind is, it's this concept that I originally got from Russell Brunson. It's this concept that when two minds come together with the intent for growth, right? For the intent for potential and for growth and succeeding and stuff like that. But when two minds come together like that, there's this synergistic energy that happens and it creates what's called a mastermind. And during this mastermind is when each other can see and understand things better and deeper than they could individually. I mean, the best way to put it is like when 1 + 1 = more than 2. And so the mastermind is all about growth and progression. And we really went into it knowing that we were going to walk away this weekend with things that we both could implement into our personal lives, into our business lives, our career lives, our creative lives, and all that kind of stuff. And I want you to know that this answer that Au5 is about to give is completely, I did not tell him to say this. This is completely of his own volition. But truly and honestly, Austin, was the mastermind worth it? Was it a good time? Did it help you out a lot?
Absolutely. I would say it was life-changing, just based off of how much I feel like I got and took back, like how much I was able to take with me after coming back home. It was fantastic and it was such an awesome time.
A mastermind, you don't have to go out in the middle of nowhere to do it. You don't have to have a lot of people do it. I mean, it was just us and, in the middle of nowhere. You can have as many people as you want, as little people as you want. It can, it can be literally anywhere. It can be over the internet. It can be in person and do all that kind of stuff. But it's just, I feel like masterminds should happen regularly. Like we were talking about, we're thinking about doing it twice a year just to keep our mind states and all that kind of stuff proper and everything. But let me ask you, man, because there was we talked about a lot of deep stuff, a lot of philosophical stuff, a lot of business stuff, a lot of stuff in general over the weekend. But walking away from that, right? When you were flying out of Salt Lake and you're just kind of reminiscing on the things that really impacted you the most, what were some of the things that you walked away with and you're like, man, these things, I got a bunch out of it, but these things were they made it worth it.
Right, man. Well, in the sleep deprived state of mind, we didn't sleep on the last night because we're getting a lot of stuff done. But I would say the main takeaways that really, to sum it up, I guess, because there's just so much stuff. It really ingrained into me the realization that what I'm doing and the skills that I have and how I apply myself, it's more than just for entertainment, and it's more than just, a career, something to make money. It's truly something that is my calling, and that I need to do everything that it takes to fully actualize that and see that through. Because if not, then, if I don't do that, then I'm doing myself a disservice, and I'm doing the rest of the world, anyone that could potentially hear me, a disservice. And it's that's, I don't know. I can't, I feel like I'm not able to live I'm not able to live knowing that I'm not living up to my full potential or being mediocre.
A lot of the people that are probably listening right now, they're probably hearing things that you're saying right now. And they're probably like, wait, this sounds a lot like when Wyatt did the 10X episode a couple of times ago. And he's right. There's a lot of concepts that we talked about this weekend that was within the 10X book, and, cookies to the people. Cookies? Kudos. Cookies too. I mean, it's whatever you want, right? But yeah, kudos to the fans that are actually seeing that, or that are kind of putting that together. But really, I mean, with this concept that you're talking about, you don't feel comfortable with not living up to your full potential. You don't feel comfortable knowing that you're living below your potential. Let me ask you a question. With the potential of humanity, I mean, what do you think about the potential of humanity? Is there a ceiling? Is there a roof? Is there a point that once we meet there, it's just we made it this far and everything like that? Do you believe that even exists?
I do not believe so. Just looking back on like the past 100 years, the technological advancements that we have been making, it's like if you look at the curve on a graph, it's not tapering. There's no plateau. It's not even linear. It's exponential. And it's like there's no indication that there is a limit or end in sight. I mean, I forget who it was, but I think it was it was a little less. It was like the early 1900s. I forget who it was. Some famous scientist said something along the lines of like everything that we can know, we know in science. Basically, like we know everything that there is, and anything that is left to learn is just like subtle, detailed stuff. And there's no like overarching higher concepts that we are going to learn because we already know everything. And man, was he wrong? This was before quantum. This is right before quantum theory came into the world, into the science community, which completely changed the perspective of everything. And it's like, for someone to say that, I think it's terrible. And to believe that kind of thing, I mean, that's like, if you believe that there is a limit, then you're not going to expect to be any better than that. And it's going to inhibit your progress to even get close to that limit that you set. It's just going to put a damper on everything with that in the back of your mind. Like, oh yeah, we're gonna hit this destination, and that's gonna be it. And then we're gonna have to figure out something else, find something new. There's never been an indication of that. I think that's just birthed from fear and skepticism.
And I can guarantee that guy that said like we've invented everything, we've done everything, there's no more progression. I bet you anything, man, he rolled over in his grave when you created the mid-side OTT. I do not believe that there is a limit for humanity, because even right now, even right at this second, humans are becoming cyborgs. Like, we are incorporating like technological advances into our everyday lives, right? Like, there's things that they can put inside of you and kind of expand on a mechanical level and just like keep going. Like, what, dude? Like, there's no stopping at this point. And I mean, that's just on a physical level. I mean, we're still talking about potential, right? Where like you're known inside the music producer community, especially since everything was school based. Like, you're a sound design wizard. You've been pushing the limits of music production, all this kind of stuff, even before we did all the school based stuff and everything like that. And now what you're saying is like, dude, we're just getting started. Like this, like there's still so much to come. There's still so many more boundaries that you're going to push and break and take them to the next level, right? That's what you're saying?
Oh, most definitely. And I think that even that perspective is like that gets excited. It's kind of like it kind of like prevents you from getting into like a jaded state of mind, because with that mindset, everything is still so new and so fresh. Like, I think we've only been making electronic music's only existed not even for a century. For someone to think that electronic music is like dying out, they are deluded because it is in its infancy. I think music as a whole, I think the emergence of electronic music is just like, it's like the second step of the evolution of music as a whole. Man, I feel like we're just still in the infancy. We're still discovering things. I find that super exciting.
You touched on this in your comment a couple minutes ago, but you mentioned, so we've established it's like, dude, there is no potential to what we can achieve, both as like music producers, as artists, as singers, as songwriters, as music industry experts, as husbands, as fathers, as wives, as mothers, as sisters, as brothers, as friends, as whatever, right? There's no ceiling on the potential of what we can become. So let me ask you this. Now that we've established that there's no limits, is trying to reach your fullest potential something that you should strive to do? Is it even worth it? I mean, of course, like there's no limit to it. So I mean, is there even a reason to try to do it? Are we wasting our time trying to do it? What do you say to that?
Right. I see what you mean. Well, I think that's sort of like a semantics issue there, because like reaching your full potential, I don't see it as like setting out to reach a destination of a specific goal. I see that as striving to operate in your fullest potential. It's like infinity, right? So infinity is not a number. It's not something that you can ever count to. It's the idea that something is endless. It's the idea that there are numbers beyond numbers. It transcends the idea that things can be finite. And that's the same concept of this whole, there's infinite potential. It's like you keep counting, you can keep counting, you can count faster, you can continually approach infinity. You're never going to reach the full potential, because there is no such thing as, there's no such thing as like capping out your potential. I think it's something that is just an ongoing process.
And the more I kind of think about it, because saying that, right? Because first off, you say like there's no limit to your potential, but you should reach your full potential. It's like, well, wait, hold on, what? There's some what's going on here? But when I say, and it sounds like this is what you're saying as well. When you truly try to reach your fullest potential, it means that you are trying to progress as much and as efficient and as fast as possible while on this earth. You're like literally doing everything in your power to grow as much as possible, to do as much good as possible, to create the most beautiful thing as possible that resides inside of you, to really try and see what you are fully capable of before you leave this earth. Can we agree with that?
I completely agree. Yeah. Because I mean, the only thing that is finite is our time on earth. And that's undeterminable. We really don't know when it's going to be the end. So it's like, it's kind of a motivator. It's like, let's do as much as we can in this limited amount of time. Let's make as much progress and as much influence, inspire and motivate as many people as we can. There is no, elixir of life. There's no invincibility, invulnerability. There's always going to be an end to our lives, as dark as that seems. I kind of don't see it as something so dark, though. I think if you look at it from the other side, it's like, for one, it's a blessing to be alive and to even experience life and have the ability to do this kind of stuff and influence. But the fact that there is some kind of time limit, as dark as that seems, it's like that in itself is a beautiful thing because of how it is able to motivate us. I mean, everything. The reason that anything exists, the reason that any life does anything, is because it wants to grow and expand and thrive, in spite of the fact that it's inevitably one day going to end. If we were just born into invincibility, there would be no motivation to do anything. There would be no foundation to fear anything, but at the same time, there'd be no foundation to feel passionate about anything. Because they go hand in hand. It's like, if you can conquer something that is fearful, then it's like that's a step in a positive direction. That's a step towards growth. But if there is no fear to begin with, there's no incentive to even feel compelled to do anything that's accomplishing. You know what I mean?
Because we're talking about like your potential of your life, but I'm going to relate it to kind of still an important concept, but kind of on a smaller level, is there's this thing that's called the baby effect, which means is that like when someone has a baby, they all of a sudden start working like 10 times harder and faster and stronger than they were before, because they understand this concept that they don't have all the time in the world once they have a kid, right? And it's there's also like this weight of responsibility that's put on top of them, which makes them work even harder to make sure the kid is taken care of. And so in some regards, us having a time limit on this earth is kind of applying the baby effect, where it's because we don't have an unlimited amount of time, because the time is limited, we need to make sure we leverage the time we have here as much as possible to make the most happen in the most beautiful way as possible, right?
I agree. Yep.
And so this naturally brings us to the next step of the conversation, which is, if someone accepted this as fact, that there is no limit to humanity, to no limit to potential, if they see that, if they can accept that, the next question is like, will it not affect anybody if they don't try and reach their full potential? If someone doesn't try and reach their full potential, is it really going to affect other people? You see what I'm saying? Is that true? Can they just walk away from that and just know that it will not affect anybody?
I mean, I think that I think that in itself is pretty selfish and apathetic to an extent, because they themselves, by doing that, whether they know it or not, I feel like that would most definitely be something that limits someone else from their full potential, because it's like a rusty cog in a well lubricated machine. It's like, if there's one part that is not working at 100%, then it affects the entire system.
One of the most selfish things that someone could do, one of the most horrible things that someone could do in this life, is not live up to their fullest potential and reach for the stars and try and do like as much good and create as much beauty as possible. Because the fact of the matter is that If you look at some of the best things that have ever existed in this world that have helped out humanity, you know what I mean? Like a cure for smallpox.
Yeah.
Learning how to use anesthesia to knock someone out during surgery.
Right.
Or anything like that. Could you imagine if someone didn't live up to their potential with that and they're just like, yeah, I mean, I could create that. I could try and figure something out like that, but I want to watch Netflix.
Right. Yeah. Like it doesn't directly apply to me. So it's like, I don't feel motivated to, there's no deep burning to actually, do that. It's nearsighted.
There could be some people that are listening to this podcast right now and they're just like, music that I create, there's no way that it could help someone else out the way that like the giants that I listen to, how their music has helped me. There's no way they could do that. There's no way that in my potential, there's something like that. When that's like that, I just want to tell those people, stop it. What? Are you kidding me? The fact that you even say that is like going completely against every single thing that we've been talking about right here. Yeah, the things that they could create right now, the things that I could create, that you could create, that anyone could create, could literally change lives. It could be the thing that people have been waiting for their entire lives. And just because they're not living up to that, just because they're scared, just because they don't understand, there's so many people that could suffer because of it. Is this making sense?
It does. And I understand where they're coming from, because there have been times where that has been my perspective too. It's like, I'm just making, silly dance music. Like, what's really the point? I should be doing something bigger and better with her lives. But that in itself is a selfish perspective, because you're only perceiving yourself the way we can't see outside of ourselves. We can't perceive ourselves from an external perspective. There have been times where I get hit up a lot. I get a lot of messages from people, which is great. But there are times, and there have been quite a handful over the years, where I would get these messages that really touch me and affect me on a deep level. Like, people reach out and say that they're going through a really hard time, whether it be like they're like grieving the death of a loved one, or they themselves are like gotten like intensely injured and are hospitalized, and their lives are not going to be the same, or people who are just bound by depression and suicidal thoughts, and they have come to me and have admitted that what I have created, the music that I made has been able to get them through and show them the light, essentially, and allow them to persist and continue to have the motivation to keep pushing forward. And that when I first got those kind of messages in the beginning, it was beyond me. I could not understand it. And I thought it was someone just, kind of just messing with me, and engaging with them and hearing their story. This is beyond me doing something for myself. Like, if this is saving people's lives, then it would be an injustice for me to not provide more of that to people, especially if I have the potential to, and especially if it's something that I enjoy doing. Like, why hoard that? Why be stingy? Why not? Artists, we are very self-critical. That's also one of the reasons. That's also one of the things that can push us forward and motivate us, to get better and continue to improve. But it's like, if your self-criticism trumps your ability to share what you do, like, it's not good enough. I'm not gonna. No one deserves to. I'm not gonna release any music until I get good enough. Man, you don't know what other people are going through, and you don't know how other people perceive things. And for you to think that you do, and that you know best of what is best for people, and that, they shouldn't hear your music because it's not good enough or whatever, it's a complete illusion. It's quite sad, because there's so many people that are self-deluded in thinking that they're not good enough, when they can literally create the things that save other people's lives.
This concept that some producer, some mortal human producer, could have the foresight to say, hey, my music isn't good enough, therefore I'm not going to put it out and it's not going to affect anybody, is just what? Really? Oh my gosh. Because I mean, okay, let me put it to you like this. If someone comes to me with the argument like what you're saying, if someone comes to me with the argument that says, I just make dance music, there's no way that I can affect them, I might as well not put it out and all that kind of stuff. Well, let me just first tell you, buddy, that if someone like Charles Manson or somebody like Ted Bundy can convince people that they're amazing and that people should love them and they're amazing and that they have so much to offer, right? And everyone's just falling at their feet. They're having these crazy cult followings like, oh my gosh, you're amazing, all that kind of stuff. If someone that has literally no value, that is just kind of one of like the worst people that ever walked the face of the earth, if someone like that can provide something to someone else that they think is valuable, why the heck can't you? Why the heck can't someone like you, who's creating something massively more helpful than what Charles Manson and Ted Bundy created, why the heck can't you come in and make a massive impact on somebody's life?
Completely agree.
And here's another concept. There's this book. We actually talked about it over the Mastermind Weekend. It's this book called The Noticer by Andy Andrews. It's really profound. You and I actually didn't talk about this exact story, but there's a story in this book that talks about. Actually, no, we did. We did start talking about the story. And we were talking about this story about this woman who is old and she just, she felt like her kids are raised. She's lived her life. She just feels like a burden to everyone. She wants to die, right? And of course, like you and I, what we talked about is that like the best is always yet to come and so on and so forth. But the concept that I want to talk about is that in this story, Andy Andrews, the writer, talks about how this man is speaking with this woman and this man is saying that I want you to know that even a baby, literally a baby, shows up from second one into the world, has a massive impact on that world. Just by showing up. The baby hasn't even cried yet. The baby hasn't even had anything to eat yet. The baby hasn't even done anything yet. It literally just shows up in the world and has already had a massive impact on everyone around it. Then why would anyone assume that now that they're in their 20s producing electronic music, that massive impact goes away? If a baby, just by showing up, has a massive impact on humanity, how can anyone reasonably tell us that them just putting out music, like whatever, or how can someone just like, oh, like I just don't want to put out my music because, it's not going to affect anyone. How can anyone reasonably say that? See what I'm saying?
Yeah. It's like we think we know how the world works based off of what we experience and based off of, the lives that we live. Even if we are completely fooling ourselves into thinking that everything sucks, and there's no way to objectively perceive the world. And the fact that you think that you're not going to make a difference, for one, you're not seeing the results to the threshold that you would feel satisfied seeing, or you're not getting enough fans, or you're not getting enough comments or attention or anything like that. It's like, dude, there is so much that happens behind the scenes that no one is capable of perceiving that is significant to what is happening right now and is going to influence the rest of the future.
When you put out a song, when you do anything, put a post on Instagram, on YouTube or whatever, I'm sure you look at the comments that come through, and obviously people are like, oh, this is amazing, so on and so forth. And you usually see, like, sometimes, at least for me, like I see some names I always recognize. I'm like, oh yeah, that guy commented again, so on and so forth, right? But how many times has this happened to you when you have gotten a message from someone and they're like, oh my gosh, like your music means so much to me, and you're like, wait, I've literally never heard of you ever, you know what I mean? You've literally just showed up out of nowhere.
And that's the thing. It's like there are a lot, what you actually see that people are responding and engaging with, you're only seeing the people that are willing to express something and show themselves. There are so many people that you don't see. I mean, you can call them lurkers or whatever, for whatever reason. I mean, that's totally fine if they're not, if they don't engage, but even for them, the fact that they do engage and express what they truly think about something, if they have the courage to do that, I would encourage it, because for one, it's win-win. On one end, it's like you don't know how your feedback and input is going to affect someone else. If it could be positive, I mean, either way, whether it's criticism, I think that there is so much potential for growth to read something that is critical. I'm not saying just like completely, trashing someone. I don't encourage that, because I think that's fueled by another. That's a whole nother topic. But yeah, if you're compelled to say something good, you should totally say it. It makes a big difference. It's the kind of thing that's like, I'm not going to vote because, it seems like I'm just one in a sea of millions. You are one person, but you are not the only person that thinks like that. Everyone who feels defensive will think of themselves as the individual and how useless they are as an individual. No, you have to think of the bigger picture. It's like your contribution is as important as every single person's contribution as a whole.
One of the highlights of the weekend that I had, kind of incorporating everything that we were talking about, was actually like, it was before the mastermind really officially started. It was when we were sitting at Denny's in Salina, Utah, population of like 2,000 people. And we were starting to talk about this stuff, and these formations, these ideas were coming into our minds about this type of concept, which is, number one, there is no cap on the potential of what we can do. But number two, it is our responsibility, our moral rights to try and go as hard and as high on that potential as possible. Because if we don't, then people will never receive those special things from us, those insights, those pieces of creativity, those whatever, those experiences. And that, to me, that is one of the greatest tragedies of humanity, knowing that someone still died with their music still inside of them.
Yeah. Hey, that's something that I think about a lot. I'm sure there are people listening to this, or people out there who would think that, that's selfish. It's like you see the work that you do so highly or so fondly that it's like, the whole world should know, or you should get it out, or people will see that as like, you're inflating your ego or whatever to say that kind of thing. But I mean, that aside, even if I didn't like my music, even if I was not satisfied with anything that I made, due to the fact that other people are, like I said before, people are benefiting from it in ways that are beyond just entertainment. The fact that exists is undeniable. And me not being able to provide that is still a tragedy. If I die tomorrow with like, these 50 songs that I'm just like sitting on unreleased, doing whatever, wherever they're going to go, that no one hears, like, who knows? I mean, for me personally, and I think every artist can relate to this to some extent at one time or another. When we're in this flow state and we're creating something, in that moment, if we are creating from an authentic place, that to us, we are putting, what we are putting into that is a part of us. It is an authentic part of us. And we're creating it for a reason. There's intention, whether we understand, whether we know it or not. There's some intention that is deliberate and that is significant that we are putting into our art. And when that's done, to look back on that and be like, that song is crap. I'm just gonna not show anyone, or just like throw it away. You're not in the same state of mind you were when you were creating it. And I think the state of mind that you were while creating it, you need to give that credit, because I think the creative flow, that's something that's divine. That's something that we can't really explain. And I don't think is something that we will ever really be able to like break down and see. Like, I think it's not like algorithmic or formulaic. It's transcendental. It's just something that is beyond. We're channeling something that is non-physical, not of this reality, and creating something that represents that in a physical format that other people can experience, and have whatever that was in the ether resonate with someone else. That in itself, that's such a significant and beautiful thing. It's our egos getting in the way, saying that like, that's not worthy, because we are totally forgetting what it was like in that moment to create something, how significant it was. Like, if it was significant to you in the past, it's still significant. Just because you don't feel that way, you don't feel that that's significant now, does not mean that was not significant and that is not significant, because it most surely will be for someone else.
I completely brutally, honestly disagree. No, I'm kidding. That was actually no, that was completely on the mark. Absolutely perfect. So one of the things that I felt like kept coming up over the weekend was, and this is really important because now we're kind of moving away from like this philosophical mind state to the actual like physical things that we can look at in our lives and in our businesses and everything like that, in our relationships, that we can actually see physically going on, and then we can address them. It's this whole concept of bottlenecking and going through, looking at it through like unbiased eyes, going through, looking at what's going on in your life at the time and figuring out where you are bottlenecking and figuring out how to fix that so that you can, crank up everything else, right? So going through all of this weekend with the mastermind, and we were identifying bottlenecks for yourself. I also noticed bottlenecks for myself. The bottlenecks for me was that I wanted kind of control over everything with DAW Nation, like all the artwork, all the video editing, all the everything like that, right? And it's not because it's not because I thought that I was the best. It was just that I knew what I wanted, and I didn't want to take the time or the energy to explain to someone else what I was expecting. Okay. Now there's a bottleneck there because I only, as you know, and as many people know, I have a wife and 2 kids and like 1,000 other things going on. And to think that I should just take it all on myself, that was bottlenecking me because I only have a limited amount of time, only have a limited amount of skill with these type of things, right? And so it's actually doing a huge injustice to DAW Nation and to basically like anyone else that really wants to get into music production, because how much does it suck to say, I know that I can put out a video every single week of someone breaking down their song, but I'm not going to let that happen because I want to make sure that I edit all the videos, right? How big of an injustice is that to other people? And that's happened before. There's been weeks where I've just had too much going on and I haven't been able to put out an episode that week. And imagine, it's like, wow, that is a huge bottleneck. What if I could bring someone on the team and have them do it? That way I wouldn't have to. And I called you earlier and I was like, dude, we have 5 people on our team now. And like last week we had like 2, you know what I mean? And
it's incredible.
It's insane because now I can guarantee that the output for everything within the DAW, behind the DAW, with DAW Nation, with everything, school-based, everything is going to increase exponentially because I identified that bottleneck and I said, okay, we need to address that. That's not okay. And we need to do it up. So let me ask you a question. In your life, like with music production in general, right? Actually cranking out music and getting that out to the world, what is a bottleneck that you think that producers struggle with on production that you feel like they're struggling with right now? Like this, because of this thing, until they fix this thing, they're still just like their output of music is just going to keep just kind of, it's just bottlenecked. They're not going to be able to get everything, the sheer amount of volume out that they could. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say, well, the first thing that came to mind from my perspective, I would see this as a bottleneck. It's like, and we talk about this in our course as well. So like the composition versus sound design and production. Because they're like two different states. I mean, there is crossover, but like they're 2 different states. Like if you're in a compositional flow, which meaning like you start a song, you start writing a song, and you're getting ideas out, things that are going to really bottleneck the song being completed, effectively optimized, and just even getting it finished would be breaking out of your compositional flow because you're too concerned about how this one sound sounds, or how this snare is mixed, or this bass doesn't sound right. Like you got to understand where your flow is being broken. And sometimes that's hard because sometimes we don't really understand. I have a hard time perceiving when I am, or like what the flow state is until I'm out of it. And I'm like, whoa, I was really in a flow and now I'm not, kind of thing. I think a bottleneck is getting too distracted with things that break you out of your flow when they are not actually integral to what you need to do at that moment. It's like procedural things, like technical music production, mixing, mastering, some sound design stuff, like that stuff that does not require nearly the intuition or that flow state. You can do that stuff afterwards. If you have a full-fledged song just right there, it's like, okay, yeah, I know, I'll listen through it. It's like, okay, I can hear exactly what needs to be mixed and tweaked and whatnot. When you have a song that is just like, when you have like a 16-bar loop and you've just been looping it all day trying to get that perfect, man, it is way harder, at least in my opinion, to think outside of that loop. It's like you've boxed yourself in. You don't know where else. Nothing else is going to sound good to you unless you really, push through it. It requires way more energy to break out of that loop than it does to put some of the detailed production, sound design, mixing stuff on hold so you can actually finish the whole song cohesively and then go back. It's like workflow. It's like, I don't know. I mean, I've never built a car before, but I would imagine it's like painting the car body before it's built or something like that. I don't know if they actually do that, but like,
they definitely don't.
I just see it as like paint the car body before it's actually built, and then assemble it, and it's like, oh, okay, everything is all the car. There's like so many scuff marks and scratches on the car body from trying to build it. It's like, it would not make sense to go back and just do like an insane amount of touch-up work on the car body when you could have just done that at the very end. And it would have been just one big cohesive. You know what I mean? Does that analogy make sense?
Yeah, their bad workflow habits are bottlenecking them. They're getting this huge crossover between they're going through, they're composing a melody, like, wait, I should be doing on the sound design. Oh wait, I'm supposed to be mastering. No, wait, I shouldn't master yet. It's just like this big like mess, and it's bottlenecking them, because if they had kind of a system in place, I mean, you can kind of move the system around as needs be, but you still have a system in place knowing that, like, hey, when I'm doing sound design, period. Like, that's like, I need to focus on that, get that done. Okay, now I need a melody. Okay, focus on that, get that done, so on and so forth. Instead of having all this jarbled crossover in the middle. I love that. As you were speaking, there's something else that came to my mind that is, I feel like, a huge bottleneck for the creation process, which is the creative intake of music. So like, dude, I'm telling you right now, if you make electronic music and all you listen to is electronic music, you are extremely limiting yourself. Limiting yourself, okay? Because there are ridiculously huge amount of genres out there that are doing extremely and beautiful and innovative things that if you saw it, you're like, oh my gosh, that makes so much sense. What if this and that and the other and so on and so forth? You see what I'm saying? Like, here's a really good example. Here's a really, really good example, okay? You're going to laugh at this because I know that you kind of was the beginning of all this, Austin, but this scenario, or this concept that I'm talking about, could be related to, like me kind of trying to build this music production channel and all this kind of stuff, is me spending all my time watching other music production channels and all that kind of stuff. But here's something that just recently happened that completely blew me away, and I got something from it that has nothing to do with music production channels. I've been watching a ridiculous amount of Dr. Phil clips on YouTube.
What? Really?
That's because, like, when I was cooking steak for us on Saturday night, and that little clip came up, and I was like, wow, this is really interesting. And then another clip came up, so on and so on. But here's the reason why, is because his strategy of how to promote episodes is exactly how I'm going to mimic my strategy to promote episodes. He's so smart. He takes these little snippets, these little clips of the episode that are so like, what? That's freaking crazy. But he doesn't give you everything, and it promotes you to go watch the full thing.
Nice.
And just from doing that, just from seeing that, I was like, holy crap, I get a whole new social media kind of strategy, content strategy from freaking watching Dr. Phil.
It's brilliant. Exactly. It's like, it doesn't even have to apply to music. It's like, that's the thing. It's like, if you feel like you're stuck and you're like, I need to obsess more about this one specific niche thing, maybe the answer isn't like zoom in and try to focus on that one thing harder. Like, take a step back. There's most definitely other things that you're missing that you can gain insight and inspiration from that are not even within your genre or forte. I did not start out just making electronic music when I started making music. I've played piano I've been playing piano and taking classical piano lessons since I was 4. I went to school I was minoring in jazz and classical double bass performance. Like, those things, it's like, okay, I'm not going to put, classical piano or like jazz bass in my songs or anything like that. Like, that has been so influential to how I approach writing music and the way that I think of composition and arrangement and stuff like that, that I would not be, I don't think I would be nearly as good if I did not have that kind of foundation and that exposure to other styles of music. It's like, it's monochromatic otherwise. It's like, if your favorite color is blue, all you want to do is just use the color blue. And you're like, no, I don't want to use any color because that's not my favorite. That's not my favorite thing. It just doesn't resonate with me. That's not going to inspire you to use other colors to accentuate what you actually like, the color blue. The color blue is made so much more significant in contrast to other colors, or the absence of colors. And it's the same thing with music. It's like if you're listening to like alternative rock all day, which sometimes I do, and then I come back listening to electronic music, it's like, wow, I hear electronic music differently. For one, it's more refreshing. It has better clarity in this way and that. But letting yourself appreciate, giving yourself some time, even if you're not feeling it, give yourself some time to try to digest something that is not necessarily in your forte or in your league or whatever, because I guarantee that there is a lot of value to extrapolate from that. Even if you hate it, even if you completely hate everything, then hey, you're still gaining something from it because you know what not to do.
I wish we could have a lot more time to talk about this, but we're coming to the end of the episode here. So is there any final concepts, any final comments, anything like that from this weekend or in general that you feel like DAW Nation really needs to know before we head out?
Yeah, we kind of skipped over the big thing. One of the main reasons we met in the first place for 3 days. So we made a Serum Masterclass.
Ooh.
We recorded I actually
counted it up. It's 17 hours right now.
Wow. Okay, so we recorded 17 hours of content? What?
Yeah, I mean, it's after we cut it down and everything, it's probably going to come out to be like 10-ish, but yeah.
I am really excited about this, and I think other people should be too, and we'll be. We pretty much break down everything that Serum is, like from top to bottom, throughout the interface, fundamental aspects of Serum and the synthesis within it, how wavetables work, what is a wavetable, subtractive synthesis, how to do additive and FFT transformations and spectral morphing. I mean, we cover like the whole gamut. And in addition to that, I also include a ton of stuff that I've learned, like little tricks and cool sound design things that I haven't seen anyone else do or teach that I use. In addition to that, with specifically Serum, like everything that we cover is Serum. I'm really excited for people to get their hands on it. Not to mention the bonus materials that we have included for them.
So guys, let me just first tell you, okay, DAW Nation, this was an insane thing that we recorded, because not only do we talk about like all of the known things, right? We talk about the lesser known things. We talk about the things that actually literally are in the manual. There were some things that we had to go and search on the internet and find this random Russian paragraph that we had to translate to English to actually understand a certain function inside of Serum. Okay, that was an actual thing. Okay, and
yeah, we dove deep.
Yeah, we dove really deep. Like there is if you walk away from a masterclass like that, and you don't know what's going on with Serum, I'm sorry, there's no hope. Like there's we covered everything. We even in one of the parts of the class, he talks about, Austin here, Au5 talks about how he literally called out Steve Duda. As calling out seems like real more aggressive than it actually is, but he actually
made a suggestion.
He made a suggestion in a video to Steve Duda about a function, and Steve Duda actually literally made it happen, and he shows exactly what that is. It's really quite crazy, everything that we went into. So I mean, we're working on that right now. That's not going to come out for a little bit, but that we are working on that right now. Actually, it's probably going to come out a lot faster now, because now I have a team covering all the other stuff, and so now we can actually focus on this kind of stuff, and so stay tuned for that. All right, that's going to be absolutely huge. But yes, we met together, we did all that, and so now if you've always wondered, wow, man, what the heck is this in Serum? What does this do? What are some deeper tricks that I know the basics, but I want the deep stuff? Guys, you have no idea. This thing, okay? This thing, all right?
Very excited.
Very freaking excited for this. So, Austin, Au5, it's always a freaking pleasure. I don't know why we have you on more in the DAWs than we do on Behind the DAWs, because it's always equally freaking amazing every time.
No, I appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Absolutely, dude. And really quick, I mean, the question that we always have is like, did you have a good time on this podcast? Was it fun? Was it inspiring? Are you okay with it?
Dude, absolutely. I'm pumped. My blood is flowing. I'm like sweating. I'm ready to take on stuff. Like I'm itching.
Hey DAW Nation, I hope you enjoyed this week's episode of Behind the DAW with Au5, which by the way, if you found anything in this episode that was helpful to you, go ahead, take a screenshot right now, tag me on an Instagram story at In The DAW Behind the DAW, and tell me what concept really helped you out this week. I would love to hear from you, and in fact, Au5 would love to hear from you as well, so go ahead and tag him as well, DM him as well, but especially we would love to know either in a DM or a comment in the comment section of this podcast, what you think your fullest potential really looks like, and we'd really like to know what are the bottlenecks right now that are in your career that are keeping you from reaching your fullest potential. Also, after the weekend of doing the mastermind and realizing how profoundly beneficial it is on our careers and our mind states and our personal life and everything, we have really been thinking about putting on a digital mastermind where we allow, a very small amount of people to come do this with us, just over the course of a couple days, which would all be through a Zoom chat. And basically we talk about where we all are in our careers, how we can progress forward, what advice we have for each other, how to change our mind states, identify the bottlenecks, all this kind of stuff. And if you're interested in that, go ahead and send me a DM on Instagram saying that you'd be really interested in that. I'd literally love to know if this is something that you would be really interested in, which, full disclaimer, in order for us to take time away from everything else that we're doing, it wouldn't be free, but it would be worth it. All right, to actually sit down for a couple hours, go ahead and bring your questions to the table about literally anything inside your business, and for all of us to share knowledge and wisdom with each other, be really awesome. And in fact, we were actually thinking about doing a physical mastermind. Au5, we're thinking about doing a physical mastermind with like 5 people, flying them out to Utah, kind of taking this weekend to go out in the mountains and do exactly what Au5 and I did, where for a couple days we hyper focus on your needs, your career, your questions, all that kind of stuff, identify where you could do better, give you as much advice, everything that we have. If you're interested in that too as well, again, to make absolute sense, for me to take away time from making the courses and for Au5 taking away time from him making music, it won't be free, but it would be insanely worth it. So if this is something that you're really interested in, you want to do something like this, hey, go ahead and send me a DM. I just want to see if there's any interest, and if so, then we can start planning the first one. This could be really beneficial, really powerful. So go ahead and send me a DM if you're interested in either the digital mastermind or a physical mastermind. And finally, DAW Nation, I'd highly encourage you to check out the school base before enrollment closes on October 31st. If you don't know what that is the sound design course that Au5 and us over at DAW Nation put together for you to really take your sound design skills to the next level, especially if you're into bass music. So if you want to go check that out, you want more information on that, go ahead and head on over to courses.inthedaw.net. There should be a link below this podcast. But DAW Nation, I just want to say thank you for everything that you guys do. You guys are awesome. We literally cannot do this without you. And I love hearing from you. So again, if you just want to send me a DM for any reason, you have any questions, comments, concerns, anything like that, I would always love to hear from you. And I can promise that if I can clearly see it's a sincere message, you will always get back a personally recorded voice message from me. All right, I've been doing this a lot lately. A lot of people have been liking it. So I'm like, hey, I think this is a fantastic idea. So I will keep doing that for you, DAW Nation. But next week, we are going to be releasing a new In The DAW episode, funny enough, with Au5. It's really amazing. It is actually going to be a Halloween special episode, right? I dress up as Spider-Man. Au5 dresses up as himself. Yeah, that's cool. We also have a special guest that's going to be helping me interview that week. His name is Nick DeGrace. He's a longtime fan of the show, and he's a really good friend from Canada. Awesome guy. Goes by Initiate. Really check out his music. He's insane. He's going to be helping me interview Au5 in that episode, so I'd highly encourage you to check that out. That would be 1 week from today on Friday, October 25th, which will be premiering on the DAW Nation YouTube channel at 12 p.m. Mountain Daylight Time. But DAW Nation, with all that out of the way, I really hope you enjoyed this episode. And again, I can't thank you enough for you guys, for all the support and the love and everything that we have going on. But DAW Nation, you're amazing. Have a fantastic day. And remember, you have to spend time behind the DAW so you can absolutely crush it when you go in the DAW.